We are back for a brand new Formula 1 season, and all of the action and drama has already got underway off circuit rather than on circuit. Before we get into the Bahrain Grand Prix, it's time to delve into all of the news that has broken out over the course of the race weekend. All of the main breaking news has come from Audi, and Devon Butler has claimed that Audi have breached his original contract. Devon Butler has stated that he had a 3-year deal with Audi and that Audi had broke all the terms within his contract. Now, as we saw, Devon Butler had raced for Audi for 2 seasons, meaning that if Butler did have a 3-year deal with Audi, then Audi would have had to have gone ahead and terminated his contract in order to get rid of Butler to allow their new driver lineup of George Russell and Sergio Perez. Audi have not yet made any form of comments with regards to Devon Butler's contract, whether they did it legally or whether they breached it, and there's going to be some repercussions to go with that. There was some comments trying to come out from George Russell, but Russell insists that he literally does not care about Devon Butler and is focused on himself, which is completely the right thing to do. This has nothing to do with George Russell. So the fact is that all of the media trying to get around towards George Russell, it's not really going to get you anywhere. Sources, however, are claiming that Butler wasn't paid his full release clause. Now, of course, within the contract, is what sources are trying to state here, is that if Devon Butler was not to complete his 3 seasons within Audi, he would be able to be paid a release clause so that Audi could pay him off and then he can go and get some new drivers in. Apparently, what these sources are saying, and we're not sure where these sources are coming from, Devon Butler wasn't paid those amounts in his wages. It's a very interesting scenario which has just seemed to have built up out of nowhere. Of course, we knew that there was that shock decision that they decided to drop Devon Butler after, of course, his attitude apparently caused many problems. Following that, George Russell actually outperformed Devon Butler last season, allowing George Russell to be the lead man at Audi. It's a very interesting piece of news that has broken out, and it's one that's certainly not going to go away for quite some time. So stay tuned here, as throughout the following few weeks, we should be able to get some more information on this, see what Audi have actually done, or whether Devon Butler is just doing what Butler loves to do best and give himself a lot of attention that is quite frankly not necessarily needed. Now, as we take a look at the race news then heading into this weekend, first things first, it is quite clear that Jaguar seem to have a lot of pace heading into this weekend. Tom and Sam topped all of the 3 practice sessions, with Sam going quickest in FP1 and FP2, with Tom just pipping him in FP3. Despite Jaguar topping all the practice sessions, it wasn't by a big margin, as both Ferrari and Audi were very close behind, and they do remain confident. Despite this though, Audi seemed a little bit slower than both Ferrari and Jaguar in qualifying trim, but were definitely up there in the race pace. Now, Porsche seemed a little bit slower than what they anticipated coming into this Bahrain Grand Prix weekend. They were expecting to be matching Red Bull and Renault in terms of overall performance, trying to scrap it out for those final few places within the top 10. But that doesn't seem to be the case. They actually seem to be falling into the clutches of the likes of Aston Martin and also Ford, which is not what they thought. Now, Mercedes-Benz are another team that's unhappy heading into this weekend. They're not quite satisfied with the balance of their car. They seem to be struggling to try and overall find a better balance without having either too much understeer or even too much oversteer. It's not looking like a great weekend for them. And Renault are feeling surprisingly confident heading into this race weekend. They think that they can definitely challenge Red Bull Racing in the fact of trying to get some lower end points, but they still believe it is going to be tough to get those with so many teams compromising in that top 10. But we'll have to just try and wait and find out. So let's get straight into it. It's time for qualifying and the race for round number 1 of the Formula 1 season. Yo, what is going on, guys? It is Foxydude here, and welcome back to a brand new series of the F1 journey for you guys today here on the channel. You do not understand how much I'm smiling right now at the fact that I'm able to bring F1 2020's F1 journey for you guys. And of course, we are doing an F1 2020. Now, as we get into the video, quick disclaimer for you guys. So I've had to change some of the UI for this game in order to actually be able to give you guys this series. So in the top left-hand corner of your screen, you can see that we're currently in P11 as we're about to set our first flying lap here of the session. You're not going to be able to see any of the gaps in drivers like you normally see in that top left-hand corner, because unfortunately on the games at the moment, we're not allowed to change the team and driver names. So I've had to hide pretty much every single opportunity you're going to get to see that. Also then in the middle of the screen, normally you sometimes get, the warning track extension or Charles Leclerc fastest lap, etc. in the middle of your screen, which pops down as a UI. I've had to remove that so you guys aren't going to be able to see that either. I know it's a bit of a shame, but I'm compromising with what I've got. I can't change the driver or team name, so I'm working with what I have. But all the graphics that you're going to need to see where everyone qualifies and where everyone finishes and who's fighting each other on track, that's all sorted for you guys. So let's get straight into it then. We're currently pole position the Bahrain Grand Prix. A track that I traditionally go really, really well at. And let's go blitzing it now here for our first and our final flying lap, should I say now, in these brand new super lightweight cars. Let's go for it then. It's towards first corner we go. We break the 100-meter board. A little bit late on the brakes, actually. Cost us a little bit of time, but we do get the traction on the exit, as our personal best lap so far was on a used set of the soft compound tyres. So that's something to bear in mind. As we got towards turn 4 now, braking about 75 metres. Don't take anything of what I'm saying for reference, because of course my cars are currently in the 1 minute 18s around Bahrain. So there's your expecting there. This corner through here actually was a little bit late on the second phase of the apex, which is a bit of a shame there, but we nailed that corner absolutely brilliantly as we now accelerate up the gears and now in towards this very tricky complex of corners here. This one catches everybody out all the time, but we actually lose a little bit of time on entry. We gain it back all on exit, as I didn't get the exit quite right. Opening up the DRS. You can also see that I've actually got a custom UI dash down at the bottom there, my little custom Jag. So we're dropping into 5th gear with the Jaguar badge behind that, and then the main Jaguar logo on the right-hand side. I actually went to the in-game files and found the race dial and changed it, because why not? So now as we go through onto the endo, we lost a little bit of time through that corner actually, and we do then end up losing a bit more time into the last corner, but we are still in the green at the moment. We are up about 0.3 of a second, but as we come towards the start-finish line now, we are going to improve on our lap time. It is going to be pole position for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Okay then, here we go. It is round 1 of the F1 Journey Season 6 of the Bahrain Grand Prix here at the Sakir International Circuit. Clear skies that night at 22 degrees Celsius to be absolutely precise on that front. Of course, never really any rain around here. The 3.362 mile circuit provides us with 15 corners, 3 DRS zones in order to get plenty of overtaking done, and we're constantly seeing action around here with some tight and twisty technical sections, but a lot of straights to get the job done for these Formula 1 cars. It's the soft, medium and the hard compound tyres then, with the soft being the fastest compound, the medium being the second best, and the hardest being the slowest of the tyre compounds, but is more durable, and we could be seeing many drivers outside of the top 10 going for that strategy. We are starting on the soft compound tyres, which means that we're going to have to change up our strategy if we want to try it and stay out in front. Could we see that safety car out in this race? We'll have to wait and find out if it's going to make an appearance. But as we go onto the grid now then, it is our first pole position for Jaguar, and Reece gets a front row start for Ferrari. They were looking very quick in qualifying. Sam, my teammate, qualifies in P3 ahead of the other Ferrari of Carlos Sainz in P4. It's Jaguar versus Ferrari in qualifying. George Russell is in P5 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo in P6 for the top of the McLaren. Charles Leclerc starts in P7 for his debut for McLaren, with Nico Rosberg, the best qualified Mercedes, in P8. Sergio Perez in P9 for the other Audi car ahead of Lewis Hamilton in P10. Not a good qualifying session for Mercedes-Benz. The 2 BMW Red Bull Racing cars of Verstappen and Mason Wood line up P11 and 12 just outside the top 10 in front of the next set of cars, which is Ocon and Bottas in the Renaults. Then we've got Pascal Wehrlein in the highest placed Porsche, with Sebastian Vettel in P16 for the Aston Martin car. Great qualifying session actually for Vettel. Gasly P17 for the Ford ahead of Lando Norris in the second Aston Martin. Hulkenberg, not a great qualifying in P19, with Noah James down in P20 for Ford. So that is your grid for the first round of this new Formula 1 season. So let's get straight into it then. We've got our strategy and we're going to roll with it. It's going to be the soft, medium soft. I'm going to switch it up and have the soft compound tyres at the end to just go hell to the wall with, and hopefully it pays off for us. So here we go then, onto the grid now for the very start of the F1 journey. This is season number 6. 5 red lights for the start of the Bahrain Grand Prix, and it's lights out and away we go here, and it's a brilliant start for us. Beautiful launch there off the line as we go in towards the first corner now, braking nice and easily. No one really going to be threatening me there. Reece getting very close though to the back of the car though as we go through in towards turns 4 now up the hill. We are into the lead here, but Reece gets a storming exit off of turn 2. We had a great start, but Reece coming back at us now. In towards turn 4 we go. We've broken a little bit late though in towards turn 4. Reece is going to come back at us on the switch back here. Reece now gets in front of us and takes the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix in the Ferrari. That's going to be great news for the Tifosi crowd. But for us though, that's not the best start there. We got caught napping after a brilliant race start. We just didn't quite cover him off in the way that we would have wanted, and now Reece is going to skip off into the distance, and that's completely flustered me. We go horribly wide then in towards that corner. It catches you out all the time, and now Sam, my teammate, fancies a run at us now. We're going to use that ERS though to defend against that one quite nicely, and in fact
we probably could have done with using our ERS probably a lot more than what I actually did initially there. As we now go through in towards the middle sector here, or the end of the middle sector, start the last sector now. Reece is already blitzing it clear in that Ferrari. For me though, I now have to try and get my act together, because I was expecting after that race start to be leading by the end of the first lap, and I'm not. So we go into the last corner now. Reece then leads the Grand Prix. We are in second place and a bit wide on the exit, struggling to get a hand to the car on race trim. Of course, in quali, it's just flat out full. I don't even know how to explain it really. It's just absolute chaotic high speed. But in the race, of course, we need to be a bit more sensible about where we're braking and how much speed we can take into corners. So that's something that we need to be very wary of. Now as we go through in towards turn 2 and turns 3, Sam gets a very nice run off the exit. He's actually going to go for it now, down in towards turn 4, around the outside. Sam now going to try and make a move on us here in this Bahrain Grand Prix. We look to be going backwards now. We just about fend off against my teammate there, and we maintain P2. In the Bahrain Grand Prix, and Reece still streaking clear. We now need to try and settle in as quick as we possibly can to get onto it. But let's have a look at the race start then here for this Grand Prix. So this is now just pretty much just a plain camera angle to see how it went on. So we got a little bit of wheel spin off the start, but we actually got a fantastic launch in secondary phase of the start, and that allowed us to take a very clean line into the first corner. Reece actually broke very, very late in towards the first corner, and as we go through now in towards turns 2 and 3, you can just see the launch that Reece is getting and the slipstream that he's actually getting from our car up towards the hill and towards turn 4. He initially goes for it, then he backs into the slipstream, then comes back at me again. I actually broke too late here. Should have broken at the 100-meter board. I broke at 75 meters, where of course we broke in qualifying, and Reece it was able to switch back on us, and he actually got that move done very, very simply. Here's on board then with Reece into the first corner then. So here we go. So after the lights out, he actually starts with overtake, and I didn't. Now as we go through in towards the rest of the lap, you can see I've actually got a very clean run in towards the first corner, but Reece breaks a little bit late. He actually goes for it there down inside of turn 1 because I left the door open. But here's the crucial thing that I got caught napping with. Reece here on the steering wheel, he's using his ERS overtake button. I did not press it during this entire straight up towards turn 4. That's where I got caught out versus Reece. I had such a good start, I didn't think I actually needed it, but unfortunately I did, and Reece got through and caught me napping on that front, and that's him through. But one man who didn't have a great start, and we're going to look at in just a second here, was Nico Rosberg. So when he got the lights out here, he started in P8. It was actually a decent start for him. He got close to Charles Leclerc, but as he breaks in towards turn 1, just watch now, he just tapped the back of Daniel Ricciardo there. He actually loses his front wing end plate, so a bit of damage there for Nico Rosberg, and then he tries to come back on the Audi of Perez. Perez gets through, Ricciardo gets through, Rosberg then actually had to pit on the end of the first lap and get a new front wing change. Back with the live action now though, Hulkenberg here is under pressure from Max Verstappen. Hulkenberg's had an absolutely storming start, considering he was down in P19. He's in front of the Red Bull of Verstappen, but Max says absolutely no to all of that and gets in front of him. Bottas now in the Renault car fancies a run at Nico Hulkenberg, and down the inside he goes into the first corner. That's an easy overtake there for Bottas. Hulkenberg tries to fight it back, but Bottas swoops around the outside. Lovely overtake there from Valtteri in his Renault. Speaking of Renaults, Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes-Benz car is having a lot of problems in the opening phase of this race, because here comes Ocon now in a barely inferior Renault compared to that Mercedes car, and Hamilton's having to fight him quite heavily. Ocon makes the move stick, so credit to that is going back on board with myself now here on lap 4 of the Grand Prix. Sam very nearly going into the back of my car. Speaking of trying to actually close up to the front, unfortunately for me in terms of my fight with Reece, you can kind of clearly see I can't even see him anymore. He is much, much quicker than I am. We take that corner in a completely wrong manner. I was seriously, at this start of this Grand Prix, was 100% just flustered. I just did not have the pace for some reason. I can confirm that I'm running 110% AI for this series. I was running 110% AI in my F1 journey last season, but unfortunately the AIs are not as strong as they are on this game. So on this game, as you can see here now, we're under massive pressure because here comes Russell with the DRS now. He breezes past us, myself and Sam included. Sainz now is going to try and breeze past. He's got past Sam actually. So both Jaguar cars dropping places. I've dropped a place to George Russell, and Sam has dropped a place to Russell, and also Sainz and all of that as well. So really not going well. Perhaps, that's a little bit deeper to turn 4. I probably should have actually given the place to Sam, let him chase after Reece rather than being a bit selfish and just going for it myself and then just hold off the rest of the field. But I was kind of desperate to just, try and rejig my performances. But at the moment, it's not really working as we're going to lap 5 here. Russell is starting to pull away a little bit. Here comes Sainz now for an attack for a second run now in towards the last corner here. Sainz having a little look into the last corner, but we brake again a little bit too late. Get onto the curb there, not brilliant exit. And Sainz now has got a fabulous run here off of that corner. We've got the DRS though versus myself. I've actually also still managed to hold on to DRS here versus George Russell. We're going to shove Sainz a little bit wide in towards the first corner, but he's having absolutely none of it. As we go down the inside here, Sainz has that inside line, but we can actually just swoop around the outside, get a better exit versus him. And we've still got the DRS here on George Russell. If we can try and keep that, we should be alright. But it's about keeping it. At this stage of the Grand Prix, something just doesn't feel right with this car. We're just not as quick in a race trim. I wonder if if our car is better in qualifying than it is in a race, and that's something that I didn't really test that much, because I'll be honest with you guys, I have done a test race around Bahrain because I was testing the air performances, and I won it. So yeah, at the moment, that's not happening because we're going to do an instant switch on there. On lap 6 of the Grand Prix, we just saw them we were getting overtaken by Sainz after a poor last corner. I decided enough was enough. Let's just get out of the firing line and let's get in for a stop now and change these compounded tyres as we pit now for our first stop of the Grand Prix onto a set of medium compound tyres. You'll be able to see that the garages for all of the teams. I haven't actually modded and changed the garages because it just takes so much time. So yes, the garage is still the pink Racing Point, but it doesn't matter. It's just a garage, and you're never going to see it apart from when I'm going in for a pit stop. So if you're wondering why is your garage pink, that's because I didn't mod any of them because I didn't really want to spend a couple of hours going through and doing all of that. So that's going to be why. But as we now progress on into this stint, towards the end of the lap now, we caught up to the back pack now. So we're onto the Ford car here of, I believe this is Noah James, but I could be completely wrong on that front. No, I'm not. It is Noah. I'm a beast at this. It's probably because I've modded the series. But as we can see now, we're going to go for an attack here on Noah in the Ford now with the DRS at our disposal. He'd actually got slip trim here on Sebastian Vettel and the Aston Martin, so that's not helping me out too much, but we do get down the inside of Noah, and there comes some of the cars then out of the pit. So that was a McLaren and an Audi coming out there, so we are still in front of some of the rivals, which is crucial as we now get a DRS run here on Sebastian Vettel in the Audi and the Aston Martin car. Down the inside on Sebastian Vettel, we get that move done as the German there is lingering at the back, and that's actually giving Noah an opportunity to fight against Vettel going into towards his middle sector, so they're going to have to sort out their dispute, and it's actually Noah that's just ahead as we're now going down the inside of Hulkenberg and making a very clean move on the Porsche car, wasting little time getting through all of this traffic now as we're going to try and chase down the next man, which is Lando Norris in the second Aston Martin car. Break a little bit late, getting a bit aggressive in there and bouncing on the curb slightly. Cost us a little bit of time, but crucially, we didn't actually smack into Norris there, so it's okay in that front. But now we have to be sitting back, a little bit patient, take a bit more curb through here, but on the exit, in terms of the traction, we've got that in abundance versus the Aston Martin, and we're through into 11th place now in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Next up the road is, I believe, the second Porsche car, Pascal Wehrlein. Then we've also got one of the Audis, or maybe no, it's not. It is the other Ford car of Pierre Gasly. Up in the front, though, there's a little bit of a swap here. This could be team orders. Who knows? But Verstappen here makes an overtake on his teammate Mason Wood. Both Red Bulls started on the medium compound tyres. They're going to be doing a classic Bahrain one-stop medium to hards. So how's that going to end up for them? We'll have to wait and see. But for us, though, lap 9 of the Grand Prix here, we're coming out now with a couple of other cars coming out of the pits here, including my teammate Sam, for that matter, as we dive down the inside there into the first corner. We're through, though, and in front of my teammate Sam in this race, but Sam's got a much better exit here off of turn 3, and he's just going to breeze past me with DRS here. Nothing I can do about it. I try to go wide into turn 4 and take a longer braking line to then try to make the attack on Gasly in the Ford, but that's not going to work, and the exit that Sam gets in his McLaren is just superior compared to mine, and he's through comfortably. Now I'm under attack here from Leclerc in the second McLaren now. So really struggling in this Grand Prix, and of course I am doing a different strategy in fairness. I am doing the medium compound tyre stint now, and then I'll do the soft tyre stint at the end, whereas everyone is doing soft medium. I'm going to go soft medium soft and do it differently, as Sam here now goes towards the outside line on Pierre Gasly's Ford as they go in towards the end of the middle sector. Now I think Sam has got this one completely done. He does so, but someone else who just completely caught me out by surprise. There goes Charles Leclerc in the McLaren. He just flew past me in towards that high-speed set corners, and I have no idea how he's just done that. Like, he's just completely blitzed past me as if I wasn't even there. So now all of a sudden we're really struggling in this race. That's a beautiful camera shot there. We go around the outside of Gasly in the Ford, but now we can get our revenge on Charles Leclerc for completely mugging me off here. He's got a run on Pascal Wehrlein in the second Porsche car. Leclerc, though, is going to have the DRS. We're going to have the DRS and slipstream. Sainz now coming out of the pits here. This is going to be very close between all of us now as we go in towards the first corner, swooping around the outside. We're going to go around the outside of Nico Hulkenberg in the Porsche. No, it's not Hulkenberg, it's Wehrlein in the Porsche car versus Leclerc. But then then Carlos Sainz, who's just come out of the pits. He's got DRS versus Sam. Also was in the slipstream of that car, and he's got past him. And all of a sudden, Leclerc comes back at me. Very close to contact in there, but now all of a sudden, we're in really big trouble in this Grand Prix because Sam's now jumped in front of us, Sainz has got in front of us, and so is Leclerc. And we're now struggling under braking into corners here. Here comes now Daniel Ricciardo in the second McLaren car. And if you crucially look, he's on the medium compound tyres. I was judging my pace now on what he was doing. He's on the same tyre compound as me, but you can just see already that he's absolutely breezed off into the distance. Ricciardo now all of a sudden, here he comes with DRS, and he's going to go on through. Gets very close there between the pair of us now, but Ricciardo's through, and I needed some answers, and you're about to get it, because somewhere we now have front wing damage. It's light, don't get me wrong, but you can clearly see the coloration difference between the front left end plate and the front right end plate. The front left end plate has taken damage. With these new cars, which are super lightweight and are super quick in the corners because of the lightweight chassis, front wing damage, even as light as that, is going to cost you a hell of a lot of time. Where I managed to get that front wing damage from, during this race when I was doing it, I have absolutely no idea where I got the damage from. We did actually manage to get past Daniel Ricciardo once again, as you saw there on the straights, but somewhere in all of this, as you can see, it's actually much, much harder to just get the power down. But further up the front, though, we've got Reece attacking the Red Bull of Mason Wood now. So, of course, the two Red Bulls who are on the one-stop strategy are now being passed by the Ferrari, who's on the two-stop strategy. But George Russell is right in this fight as well. Here he is, in fact, in the Audi car. He's actually got the run on not only Wood, but he's also going to have a DRS attack on Reece. Reece doesn't have DRS here, and that's it. That's George Russell through. Russell leads the Bahrain Grand Prix. Reece has dropped down to second now in this race. Mason Woods drops into fourth place now, and that's an awful bit of a race there for Reece. Russell has got some great pace because he's taken the lead. Speaking of, well, Jaguar, at least there's something going right for us. Sam passes the Renault car of Valtteri Bottas as there's a yellow flag now that's just waved there, so something's gone wrong, and we will get a replay of that in a memento, but we're now going to have an attack here because Carlos Sainz now in the Ferrari car fancies getting past the Renault of Valtteri Bottas, and he's going to do so with a very nice move here down the inside into the last corner. Leclerc's going to have to wait a little bit longer for that to come his way, but lap 11 of the Grand Prix now, and we are going to eventually get that yellow flag to come out very, very soon, but we're really, really struggling. You can see how quickly the rest of the field are blitzing clear of me, and I just don't have anything to fight with in this stage of the Grand Prix. I've got, you know, it is very light damage, but like I said, with these cars, that damage is very, very big, and it's Vettel who unfortunately caused the yellow flag, and this is why his debut for Aston Martin goes up in plumes of smoke as that car pulls over to one side. Vettel is out of this Grand Prix. Big, big shame for Sebastian Vettel. Unfortunately, though, resuming after that, here comes the McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo to absolutely mug me off and say thank you very much. I will see you next week for our next Grand Prix. Because you ain't catching me, is pretty much what he's just said there. But Daniel Ricciardo's a very nice guy, so I presume he probably didn't say that. If he did, it would probably hurt my feelings. But that's something that Daniel wouldn't really do. And you can see here just braking too late into the corners. And of course, when you have front wing damage as well, you do also brake late. You have to brake a little bit earlier. And unfortunately, I just can't do that because, well, I'm a late braker anyway. And we're just seriously struggling for performance now. And you can see that I'm trying to close him down, and the second Audi car of Sergio Perez is now stalking all over the back of me here as we now go down in towards this tricky corner. Getting it right though, in fairness, but on the exit you can see we get the DRS open, but just look at the advantage that he's pulling out over here. Now Perez is coming at me here with DRS, and this is where I kind of lost my head here. So I then tried to switch back on Sergio Perez. There's a little bit of contact made, and something like that is what caused the damage. Because as you saw then, I mean, in fairness, that time around I knew that there was damage coming because I just lost my head. I was getting frustrated that the race wasn't going my way, and that happened. So when I did that switchback line and I made that very gentle touch, that obviously caused the yellow damage on the front right end plate. But where the damage came on the left hand side, that was still a complete puzzle to me. No idea where it is from, but nonetheless, we're going to have to stop though and get a front wing change because unfortunately we've just taken too much damage now on the front wing. I was going to change it at the second stop anyway when I went to the soft compound tyres, but honestly, I'm just losing so much time that there's just no point anymore. And I need to just get in there and get a new front wing sorted because at the moment, of course, we just have absolutely no performance whatsoever. What we are doing as well though is taking a bit of a bold strategy call as well. We're going on to the medium compound tyres. Now, of course, this is only lap 13 of the Grand Prix, and of course, those on the mediums will be pitting now for a set of the hard compound tyres. But if you think about it, those tyres would have done 14 laps. We pretty much got to do like 15, 16 laps. So all in all, it's all right, but, you know, it's going to be a bit of a stretch in this stint, but that's what we're going to be doing. Speaking of back at the front, though, here is Sam now attacking Mason Wood in the Red Bull for a chance to get further up the order and get past those cars, because unfortunately, I've pretty much been nullified from this Bahrain Grand Prix. There's not a lot I can do, really, as Sam now blasts onto the straight here, but here we've got trying to get onto the right camera angle, as Sainz and Leclerc now are going to have a run at Sam here. They've both got DRS now, going down the straight here. Here goes Sainz on the inside, Leclerc on the outside. Sam's going to be stuck in the middle here. A little bit of contact made between both Sainz and Leclerc, and also Sam involved in that, but Sam gets out on top. He'll have the DRS now on the second straight. Leclerc doesn't have it. Sainz gets DRS though, but Sam just about stays in front, covers the inside line into turn 4. Beautiful defensive driving there for Sam, as he's currently in a net P3 in this Grand Prix, as George Russell leads the Grand Prix ahead then of, it is going to be, I believe it's Reese actually in second place. Then it is Sam. Leclerc here now, passing Verstappen. Now they've all made their second stops, I believe, in this Grand Prix, bar Carlos Sainz. Speaking of making their stops now, I believe that's Sainz coming out of the pits now. Verstappen here on the hard compound tyres does get the DRS here to attack now, and there is Sainz actually just coming out of the pits there, and I think he might have just rejoined in front of Sam there. So Sainz then getting a bit of an overcut. He does though. So Sam with the overcut not working. Sorry, Sainz with the overcut works out nicely. Leclerc though, second attempt here, gets past Verstappen first time around. Max came back at him, gave him a little bit of a scrap in there, and that is absolutely fine on his front. Lap 19 of the Grand Prix, coming back to me now. We've actually been just doing our own Grand Prix, and we're now actually going to try and attack here Valtteri Bottas to get into the points now for this Grand Prix. So here we go now with the DRS here, attacking Valtteri Bottas, getting ever so closer, going for it down the inside into the first corner. A little bit late on the brakes there, but we managed to get the car slowed down, cover the inside into turns 2 and 3, and that's us now up into P10 in the Grand Prix. So at least we'll get a point in this race if we can keep the tyres in working order. They're on 27% with still 10 laps to go, so they're going to be very worn out near the end, but at least we've got the performance in there. Back to these two, Sainz and Sam, fighting for the final podium slot. That's Reese in front there, as Sainz now goes for an attack on the outside line here of Sam into the first corner. As Sam goes down the inside to defend the position, Sainz has to back out of it. Sam absolutely not letting him through there, and that is absolutely perfect for Sam. But a lap later, Sainz is going to come back at him and go for a second attack now. This time he goes to the inside line, makes his move early into this attack now, and a little bit further behind there, the two McLarens starting to get a little bit close for company as Sainz goes down the inside of Sam and takes P3 at this Grand Prix. Speaking of that attack we were talking about earlier, Ricciardo gets in front then of Charles Leclerc in the other McLaren car there. So a little bit interesting there. The two McLarens swapping places. Back to Sainz and Sam once again. Surprise, surprise, they're going for it once more. As Sam now goes to the inside line here to attack Carlos Sainz, closing the DRS into the first corner. Sam back into P3 in this Grand Prix. Riding back on board myself now into lap 22 of the Grand Prix. We've closed up now to the second Red Bull of Mason Wood in this Grand Prix. Verstappen is a little bit further up the road. But the pace was actually pretty good in this stint, considering I was kind of a bit of a lonely source throughout this rest of this Grand Prix. But we're now going to go for an attack here on the Red Bull driver to get ourselves into P9 in this Grand Prix and get an extra point to our name, and we get past the Red Bull there with quite a significant ease as we brake into the first corner. Again, a little bit late on the brakes, but again, we can cover the inside line into 2 and stop the switch back from happening. And that's us up into P9 now in this Grand Prix. We're going to see if we can try and chase down Verstappen. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to give it a go. But the medium compound tyres so far definitely giving me plenty of grip, and we're through and up into that 9th place. Should we go back on board with Sam and Sainz? Let's do it, because they're still at it. They're still scrapping in this Grand Prix at the moment. And a bit of a shame that I can't be involved in this, but unfortunately we just didn't have the pace, and that was a bit close to contact there. We didn't have the pace, and somewhere in all of this Grand Prix, we took front wing damage before we then solidified that damage even further. But none of that though. Sainz is through once again on Sam, making that overtake stick, but a lap later, Sam is going to come back at Sainz for another attack now with the DRS here. He's going to go to the inside line. Sainz initially covered that off, but Sam just being a bit wise there and getting through as the two McLarens are scrapping at it. Once again, Ricciardo repassing Charles Leclerc in this Grand Prix. So the two McLarens having a nice little scrap of their own, with Sergio Perez there in the other Audi car getting much closer now to these two, as Sainz and Sam we go back on board with to see if Sainz can have a go in towards turn 4. He got close there, but not close enough. But further back now, A very difficult Grand Prix for Nico Rosberg in the Mercedes-Benz after the damage to his front wing that we saw at the start of the Grand Prix. He passes Esteban Ocon, but he's still out of the points. In fact, both Mercedes cars are not running in the points in this Grand Prix. It's been a very poor race for them, and we'll see if they can try and gain anything from it. But going back on board with the Sainz Sam scrap here, and it is literally the SSS Sainz Sam scrap as we now go through into the first corner. Sainz tries to go around the outside, but Sam says you can have the outside line because I'll fend that one off. But now here comes Sainz and Sam once again on the back straight here, a little bit quicker than Sainz this time around, as Sainz now goes towards the inside line. Sam does cover it off though in towards the first corner, but Sainz goes down the inside of Sam and he makes the move stick just about, but Sam holds his nerve in there. Sainz though swoops around the outside of 3 and gets the move done on Sam there. Lap 29 of the Grand Prix now, and we're coming through to finish the Grand Prix here. But the man that's going to win the first round of the Grand Prix is going to be this man on screen here. It is George Russell. He got past Reese when they were attacking the Red Bulls in the traffic, and from then on in, he's been untouchable. Russell wins the first round of the Formula 1 F1 Journey season. Number 6, round number 1 goes to Russell. Unfortunately for us, we took front wing damage somewhere in the stints. I don't know where we did it. Obviously, I made it worse by hitting Perez when I lost my head. But somewhere or other, we took front wing damage and we just came home and we just solidified a P9. And that's the best that I possibly could have done. I couldn't close Verstappen in the end, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. George Russell, as you can see then, wins the Bahrain Grand Prix. He had a nearly 10 seconds over Reese in the end, so he dominated the second phase of the Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz just beat my teammate Sam to that final podium spot in the Ferrari, and he'll be delighted with that, considering where he's been throughout the majority of his career so far. Sam finishes in P4 for Jaguar, half a second shy of the podium. It's a great scrap between himself and Sainz, but Sainz comes out on top. Daniel Ricciardo just finishes in front of Charles Leclerc by 0.6 of a second in the end, or just a half a second actually, with both of them 14 and 15 seconds off of the lead. Sergio Perez in P7 for the second Audi car, 15 seconds behind his teammate, but finishes in P7. Max Verstappen finishes the race in P8 for Red Bull. I tried to close Verstappen down as I finished in P9. The gap was around about 2 seconds. I then made a mistake somewhere and dropped back another 2 seconds. I just couldn't close the gap anymore. Mason Wood finishes in P10. Charles Leclerc actually took the fastest lap bonus point for this race. He set a 1:21.697 in the race to go ahead and take the fastest lap point. So fair play to him on that front. The second half of the table then, so Bottas finished in P11 for Renault, ahead of both Mercedes cars of Hamilton and Rosberg. Like I said, none of them scored points today. It was a really bad race for them today. Ocon finished in P14, ahead of Pascal Wehrlein and Nico Hülkenberg, the two Porsche cars, P15 and P16. Then it was the two Ford cars of Gasly and then Noah James, P17 and P18. Norris finishes in P19, and Sebastian Vettel was the only man to DNF from this Grand Prix, which is a bit of a shame for him. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, of course, is exactly as you would expect. It is the top 10 and how they finish. So George, Reese, Sainz, Sam, Ricciardo, Leclerc, Perez, Verstappen, myself, and then Mason Wood. The only difference in there, of course, is Charles Leclerc is on 9 points rather than what should have been 8 points, as he took the fastest lap bonus point in there. In the Constructors' Championship standings then, despite Audi taking the race victory here today, it is Marlboro Ferrari that are on top here. They're on 33 points, and they lead Audi by just 2 points, who are on 31 after their race results here today. McLaren are on 19 points and are third in the championship, ahead of our team Jaguar, who are on 14 points. Of course, Sam picking up 12 points today. I only managed to pick up 2, which isn't very, very brilliant. Red Bull do get themselves onto the board with 5 points, and then Mercedes, Renault, Ford, Porsche, and also Aston Martin failed to score any points here today, which means to start with, they are not on board with the Constructors' Championship, but we should expect the likes, especially Mercedes, to get into the points. The rest of the 4, they're going to need a little bit more, because it looks like Ferrari, Audi, McLaren, Jaguar are that far ahead that that's already 8 positions filled, and that's not even including Mercedes yet, so there's something quite big in there as well. But with that being said and done, we're going to get straight into the post-race notebook and see what the teams and drivers have had to say after this race. So as you can see then, George Russell has won the Bahrain Grand Prix. That is the main headline coming out of today's race weekend. Both Ferraris managed to secure themselves some podium finishes, so all in all, it was a great day for the Scuderia. But let's have a look and see what some of them have had to say. Starting things off with Tom then. Now, Tom and Jaguar actually didn't notice that there was front wing damage on his car. We saw that during the Grand Prix, Tom, halfway through the race, realised there was front wing damage on his car. Now, Jaguar weren't really thinking about any form of front wing damage on the car. I didn't see anything when they checked. But after Tom was struggling and said he had severe understeer, Jaguar then did thorough checks and saw that he had the front wing damage. Now, we're not sure where this came from, and like I said, they're conducting a very strong investigation into this to find out where it all came from. Nico Rosberg is disappointed that his race pretty much finished after the first lap after contact with the McLaren car of Daniel Ricciardo. He's blamed Daniel Ricciardo for the matter, saying that Ricciardo broke dangerously early and smoothed over onto his line, causing him to break his front wing end plate on the rear of Daniel Ricciardo's car. We haven't had a comment from Daniel Ricciardo, but I'm pretty sure he'll say that Rosberg just drove into the back of him. And then finally, Reece is very, very happy to pick up his first podium finish of his career for Ferrari. However, he says that he's a little bit disappointed by the pace of what Audi showed, and he just didn't feel like he could compete with what Audi had. But there it is, guys. That is it for the Bahrain Grand Prix. We hope that you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you have, feel free to drop the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well for some more F1 Journey content. And we'll see you guys next week for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Take care all. Peace.